Welcome to episode 2 of Wilder Wolves, Hall of Fame Mode Fandom. My name is Wilder Adams, and we have our first official guest in Wilder Wolves history, Mr. Zach Rudeen, owner of T Wolves Country on Instagram, the best platform on Instagram, I think, for Timberwolves basketball. So, Zach, how are you doing, my friend?
Doing great. I mean, it only made sense for me to be your first guest. We've been, friends on there for probably half a decade now, and we, have done podcasts before and stuff like that. So it makes sense for me to be the first on here, and I'm excited.
Yeah, we used to run a podcast together a couple years ago called Windshield Hoops, and that was, of course, a fun time. But you know what? Things change in a couple years. For example, my technology isn't failing me today. Instead, it's Mr. Zach whose technology is failing him, Zach. So, how do you feel about the change of roles in that type of setting?
It's great. My mic is being used as a prop today. So it'll just be here. It's not working, but you can see it.
We used to spend like 30 minutes before episodes, like as we're prepping, and I'm literally having like World War III with my microphone or my computer, and
I'm just
Zach is
I'm just waiting.
just sitting there awkwardly, just like kind of looking to the stars, trying to, withhold any bashing that's, righteous toward me. So, you know what? But we'll move forward. It's okay. It's okay. We'll get him on in the future, I'm sure, and then we can get it all figured out. But today we have a really fun episode because we're going to kind of shift toward the younger side of the Minnesota Timberwolves, both prospects right now and the NBA draft a little bit. So to give a little explanation of what I mean, Zach and I are going to give our rankings of the young Timberwolves prospects since the 2022 NBA draft. So as old as Josh Minott, as young as Rob Dillingham, and Terrence Shannon isn't young, but he's a rookie. So he's in this group still. And we're just going to rank on how we think they present value for the franchise going forward, both mixed with our own evaluations of them as young players, but also just how they fit with the team long term. And then we're going to transition, second part of the show. We are going to do, and shout out to No Ceilings for this concept, but we are going to do a War Room 2025 NBA mock draft. So essentially, Mr. Zach Rudeen right here, he is going to be a future NBA scout. He is a really talented young scout. So the way a War Room, I stink with my W's and R's. The way a War Room works is that we are going to just simulate all the first 16 selections, and once pick 17 happens, Zach's going to look at the options available and make his case for his top 3 options. If he wants to go, a little more than that, he totally can. And then I'll end up making the pick. So it's kind of like a GM scout role in that way. And we'll do that for pick 17, and we'll also do that for pick 31. So it's going to be a very fun episode, Zach. So what do you want to say before we get started?
Not much. I'm ready to hop in. I mean, it's kind of crazy. We don't have to spend this much time on it, but it's kind of crazy to find us in this situation with all this, young talent and guys on the roster at this age compared to what people thought we would be 3 years ago when we made the Rudy Gobert trade and back-to-back conference finals appearances. And now you have, you know, all this like talent on the roster that you need to make room for. And now you have two more draft picks that you need to make room for. So it's a good place to be.
Hall of Fame mode family. I'm messing up my own slogan. Hall of Fame mode fandom, Zach. We are finally seeing the turning point in Timberwolves history with young players. Like you mentioned, the Rudy Gobert trade, we're all like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do building around Anthony Edwards? And then, I mean, look at in 4 drafts between 2022 and 2025, they're basically going to have one first round pick per year, which is that's pretty standard in the NBA. So at this point in time, it hasn't affected the first round draft count. And they just have a good young core now, right? Like, but when the Rudy Gobert trade happened, I don't think the national media realized how talented Jaden McDaniels is because, frankly, we were getting made fun of for celebrating keeping Jaden McDaniels instead of dealing all of our first round picks. But now we're seeing that work out. Naj Reid's exceeded expectations, and they've drafted pretty well, and they got assets, right? So basically, it's like I mentioned, the 2022 NBA draft, where we got Josh Minott 48th overall, all the way through 2024. We're going to use that as a transition for 2025. But we're going to rank our top 6, and we're just going to mention our number 1 each time. So Zach will mention his number 1. I'll mention my number 1, and we'll go back and forth in that little routine right there. So Zach, I want to hear, who is your number 1 Minnesota Timberwolves young prospect?
For me, like, as much as I love the next guy up and am excited for him next year specifically, it's still Rob Dillingham, number 1 for me. Definitely the most upside of this core of 6 for me. We kind of knew about the defensive and size concerns. I think his role would have been bigger if we did not make the Karl-Anthony Towns trade, because, the addition of Dante DiVincenzo just continued to add to the guard stack that we already had in front of him. Like, there was just not a reasonable way that he was going to find a way to get in playing time over guys like Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Dante DiVincenzo, especially when Minnesota was just trying to become a top 6 seed the entire year mostly. I have a lot of confidence that Dillingham, if he was maybe switched roles with like a Bub Carrington on the Washington Wizards and was playing 30 minutes a night, probably could have led rookies in scoring this year and would have been an all-rookie guy for sure, in my opinion. I mean, the offensive talent was always there on the court. It's just, I mean, he competes on defense too. The defense wasn't as bad as I was really expecting because the effort level was just awesome. Now he can get targeted like crazy on that end because of the size, but like, he's just got to build on the frame. He's almost 2 inches taller than Mike Conley, and Mike Conley was a good defender throughout most of his career. So I don't think the height should be the concern to that. It's just, the maturity of his body over time. And he's got to take a leap in that sense going into next year.
Yeah, and I'll just quickly say Rob Dillingham is also number 1 on my board still. And I think you tapped on just a ton of good points in regard to, the defensive concerns. They're valid with the weight, and it's more about a weight thing than it is a height thing. And I totally concur on that. And I want to add to that and say, I feel like Rob Dillingham has gotten an unfair, level of criticism on, Timberwolves social media a little bit, because he did have ups and downs, and he did have a pretty bad stretch after he said on the Utah Jazz game that the game's a little easy. I think ever since he said that, the game was pretty hard. But there's a couple of things. Number 1, he's a rookie point guard, and rookie point guards take time. Everybody wants Darius Garland right now, it seems like. Darius Garland was the worst player in the NBA, you could argue, his rookie year. He was that bad. And similar to Darius Garland, small guard, figuring out the game. And I think Dillingham has a lot of the Darius Garland type traits, but even to a bigger extreme. For example, he's even twitchier and quicker than Darius Garland, in my opinion. And even though he has to refine his shot a little bit, he can get off his shot even faster than Darius Garland can. So he has those things. He led Summer League in assists last year, I believe. And he's shown more potential as a distributor than I think people give him credit for. Like, I've heard Jamal Crawford comps, I've heard Lou Williams comps, and I just think he's got more playing upside or playmaking upside. And some players in the NBA, they're not just like a Jaylen Clark, who we love, who you could just throw it on an NBA court, and their skill set is very simple, very bankable, defend, hit threes. That's very scalable, right? Rob Dillingham's game, in my opinion, isn't as scalable because he's a young guard who needs the ball in his hands. He needs a rhythm. He needs a leash. And in the second half of the year, when everybody started getting healthy, he didn't get that same leash. So it makes sense that he was playing out of rhythm more often. When he did get an opportunity, he was playing a lot in that 25-point Oklahoma City comeback stretch. He was getting a lot of opportunity in that Houston Rockets game, that Boston Celtics game. He played great in the Utah game. We saw him when they needed him, and he knew he was getting 20, 25 minutes. He showed up in those games. And I think that's a really encouraging sign going into next year. I just hope he's not discouraged by the fact he didn't play a lot, because he's in a unique situation for a number 8 overall pick. I'm not sure how many rookies would have played on this Timberwolves team last year. I don't think a Bub Carrington would have played in a Timberwolves rotation next year. So I still am very bullish on Rob Dillingham. I hope he's not traded for Kevin Durant, and I hope he gets that opportunity next year because they're going to need it as Mike Conley gets older, because we saw a Conley regression last year. And if that continues, they're going to need Rob Dillingham incredibly bad.
Yeah, and he just presents a skill set that the team and the roster needs, especially next to Anthony Edwards, a guy that can pressure the rim to some extent. Now he's not like a great finisher of the basket right now because of how like small he is, but like he can create paint touches and like pass out to corner shooters and stuff like that. And he can be a shot creator in his own right. He doesn't, need to live off of Gobert screens like Mike Conley has the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Like he can beat a guy in isolation and get to different spots in the court. And projectably, like he's the best bet to being a long-term great guard on the roster next to Ant right now because he has that skill set. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, as much as he's developed as a point guard, he's more of a shooting guard that can be a secondary ball handler. Same with Dante. Dante's at his best when he's completely just moving off the basketball. I think he played 2 on the ball this year. But yeah, Rob Dillingham just presents a unique skill set that the team needs long term.
Yep, absolutely. And I think, like you said, I was just loading up the Rob Dillingham stats, and I'll mention them right after I say your point. But absolutely, the fact that Rob Dillingham can create off the dribble, space creation, get to spots because he has that shiftiness. It's literally his name, basically. So shifty, right? But he has a shiftiness. He's got the space creation, and that's just a dynamic Minnesota will need next year. And I thought he showed some solid signs in the regular season involving Rudy Gobert, even so, which I think is also encouraging. And I just want to mention this. So I think it's easy to forget sometimes. Sometimes it was hard for me as a fan as well to grasp this when he had a tough second half of the year. But as of January 20th, 2025, when he got that stretch where he was playing consistent minutes, right? His last 130 games before that January 20th date, shout out Automatic NBA, 75 points, 24 assists, 52% from 2, 46% from 3. When he got a rhythm, he showed up. And that's what you want in a young guard. He's got superpower skills, and I love those in young prospects. He's got superpower traits. We just hope he can work on, some of the physicality, the weight this summer, and some of the defensive instincts. So next year, he isn't, as big of a defensive liability he was last year, and he can just move forward next year. So I totally agree with your point. I have Rob Dillingham number 1. Let's shift number 2, Zach. Let's see if we continue this trend.
Yeah, I got a feeling we will. He's a bit older, but Terrence Shannon Jr. I'm so excited to watch him next year. It sounds like he's going to have a much bigger role, according to Chris Finch. He absolutely should. My biggest thing with him and how, like, there was just like I feel like he was treated like a rookie this past year, which he was. But the dude is 24 years old. Like, he should not have been treated like a young guy. He played 5 years of really high level college basketball, leading a team in Illinois multiple years, and the last year to a Big Ten title, and then, an Elite Eight run in March Madness. Like, this dude has ran a basketball team at a really high level. I think he can come in and play 10 minutes a night on an NBA roster next to really good basketball players. Every single time he touched the court, it felt like he had some sort of positive impact. The big swing skill for me, and I remember we were talking about this last year when we drafted him, but my big swing skill was how good can he be on the corner, just catch and shoot shot making. And I just looked it up for this on Synergy, 40% this year off the catch. Like, that's the swing skill for him. I don't know if he'll continue to shoot 40% on those, but like if he can shoot high 30s on open catch and shoot threes, that just maximizes everything else he does to the highest extent. And then plus the defense has never really looked bad at all. Like, he's had good moments there, but it's just the transition ability, the finishing at the basket. It's unbelievable. He maybe doesn't have like star upside because he's already went through like 4 extra years of development compared to some other young guys. But like, this is like potentially one, like, he's just hits a different gear in transition that not many players in the league do. Like, realistically, he could be one of the better, transition threats in the NBA with that athleticism, ability to handle the ball at that speed, and just ability to finish at the rim, with his touch in general. I'm a big fan of him going forward. I see a world where if it's, maybe him and Dante as the best players off the bench, maybe him, Dante, and Nikhil, where he could lead the bench in scoring around like 12 a game or something if Nas is starting. So I'm excited for him.
Yep, he's number 2 for me as well, Terrence Shannon Jr. And I think you touched on a lot of great points. I actually think his upside is underrated. He's the safest prospect on the entire team. If you had Terrence Shannon Jr. number 1 on your Timberwolves prospect list, I wouldn't be mad at you because he fits everything you want in the modern NBA. Physical, athletically dynamic. He doesn't need the ball in his hands often. He knows how to play in space. And not only is he aggressive, but he's aggressive and intuitive. Terrence Shannon Jr., when he came into the league, my worry about him was, okay, he plays one speed, it feels like. A lot of one-speed players, we saw it with Josh Okogie, they play incredibly fast. And then they run out of options. And then they run into something and fall and turn the ball over. So players like that often aren't great with the ball in their hands. But Terrence Shannon, whether it was the OKC game, whether it was the playoffs, or he just owned OKC this year, I realized, because he was great in the conference finals and he helped lead that 25-point comeback in the regular season. He can play fast and he makes good reads doing it. And that's a rare trait. And he's so physically imposing. So physically imposing. That's a type of player who's built for the playoffs. And he was so unbelievably comfortable in a playoff setting in the conference finals, just shooting wide open. He was able to pull up. He played at his own speed, and he was able to bang with those OKC defenders, which made him such a valuable asset. He reminds me a lot of a more physically imposing Christian Braun. And yeah, Braun is similar ages with Shannon Jr., but Shannon, with opportunity, I can see a world where he's averaging 16 like Brown can, and he's playing in that open speed, and he's knocking people over. People don't want to stay in front of him, and he's just like this amazing offensive connector. When we drafted him, I liked the pick, but the more we watched him with opportunity, whether it was OKC, whether it was the Lakers, whether it was the playoffs, I just grew higher on Terrence Shannon. And the fact that Chris Finch is saying, yeah, he's going to have a significant role next year, that's a big deal. Like, even a bigger deal than it might be given credit for, because Chris Finch doesn't go out of his way for recent rookies and say, yeah, he's going to play right away. He doesn't do that. He didn't do it for Leonard Miller, didn't do it for Josh Minott, hasn't done it for Rob Dillingham since I've checked.
I don't know if he's ever talked about Leonard Miller.
Yeah, he talked about him on draft night and end of rookie year. I'm not sure if we've seen it since. So we'll talk about him later. We will, because he's on the show. And I still love Leonard Miller.
I love him.
So we'll tap into that. But I mean, Zach, is there a world he's literally leading the team in bench minutes, even if Naz Reid's back?
Yeah, I mean, he definitely could be. I mean, the thing that gives me more confidence in that is you can just put him more lineup combinations because I mean he's got good positional size at different spots. But another concern for me coming in with Shannon was how is he going to scale down his role in the NBA because he had a 29% usage rate his last year at Illinois. Like I don't know, I didn't really see how he was going to become like a 15% guy in the NBA and what that would look like. It looked great this past year because of that 3-point shooting. The cutting was great. Really maximized himself in transition. Like I hope to give him the ball more this upcoming season when he's on the court. And then plus just like he's got that dog, man. He's a tough dude. The moment like there never felt like a time where he didn't belong on the court. Like any single time he ever touched the court. Like you know how insane that is to like not play rotationally for like 2 or 3 months. And then you're playing rotationally in the Western Conference Finals and you're doing good. Like, who does that?
As a rookie, I mean, he does have that confidence. And I was surprised by the moment he was asked to just walk on the court, do something, he did it. And that's not easy to do. Like, I was just defending Rob Dillingham on why that's hard for a young player. And Terrence Shannon was also third in the country in college, I believe, in free throws. And coming into the NBA, I was like, like they're not going to give a rookie that type of call. Will that affect his game? And he kept drawing fouls like the moment he started playing. And that is that's a superpower. And he's got unbelievable traits. Like I said, I think he's the safest prospect on the team. I think he's a guaranteed good player in the NBA. And it'll be very interesting to see just how much he elevates next year, assuming he's still on the team, because we just have the KD thing hanging over our heads until that trade goes down, wherever he goes. And I just want to talk about, speaking of trades, before we transition to player number 3, don't you think that Terrence Shannon was just as much affected by the cat trade as Rob Dillingham was? Because he was drafted as a day one NBA player.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the guess for him coming in was you're gonna be a day one guy because you're 24 years old and you're already a high level basketball player. But yeah, I mean, I remember the bench unit was probably like Rob, Nikhil, Shannon, Nas. Who am I forgetting as that other? I mean, it would probably just be those 4, right? But I just looked at his college stats. How many free throws a game do you think he took his graduate year at Illinois?
I believe he took 8.7 a game. Is that right?
10.2
a game.
Over 10. He made over 8 free throws a game. Wait,
okay.
Hold up. That was per 40.
Okay. That was per 40, guys.
8.6. I knew that felt really high. I mean, that's in 33 minutes a game, taking almost 9 free throws a game. He still draws them. That's crazy.
I was close. I'll take it.
Of course, I was looking at per 40. That's great.
No, it's all good. It's all good. But yeah, he's really intriguing. I think he's going to be a really good NBA player. And these are, like I said, he's like a guaranteed good NBA player on this list. Rob Dillingham, his upside keeps him number 1. And he's also so young. He's basically a half a decade younger than Terrence Shannon Jr. So I think that context is really important. And let's see, I have a feeling we're going to continue this ranking. It's feeling consensus so far. So Zach, who's number 3 on your list?
Yeah, we're going to go with from UCLA, Jaylen Clark. I mean, he was at a point, I thought he was the best rookie this year. It was like a few weeks into him being a rotation guy, and I was just like, there's just no way this dude can lead the rotation. I mean, it got to the point where we're talking about, just letting Nikhil go because he's so good. And again, for him, it's the 3-point shot. Like, he was a bad shooter at UCLA and just throughout his career. And then he shows up and he's drilling 40% of his threes basically. But the defense is unbelievable with him. Like, if you do want to compare him and Nikhil, I think he's the better defender, like, already. I think I genuinely believe if he played 20 minutes a night on the Lakers next year, he's making an all-defensive team. He's that good. I haven't seen anybody guard Shea better than him this entire season. He's unbelievable on that end. He's a super strong player. He has the ability to cut to the basket, and the 3-point shot looked good this year. I don't see much more like ball skills than that right now. But if he can just be an absolute stud defender and hit corner threes, he's gonna be making like $15 million a year soon.
Dude, I was surprised. I was at the Jaylen Clark debut, essentially. I was at that Suns game, and I remember when he got subbed in, I was like, Dad, Jaylen Clark's going in. And my dad follows the Timberwolves pretty intimately. And he goes, who is that? And 5 minutes in, my dad was like, the kid can play. Like, he could defend. And then over time, like, the defense wasn't surprising, but the comfort coming back from an Achilles injury was very, very encouraging. And then he started nailing open threes at a consistent rate, shot well over 40%, granted low volume, but well over 40% from 3 on the season. And there's some young players, for example, Orion Dunn on the Phoenix Suns, and you watch them shoot early in the year, and you could tell they're not a natural shooter. And Jaylen Clark, on the other hand, he came in, and I thought the shot looked confident. I thought it looked smooth. If I was like a grandparent and I've never watched the Timberwolves in my life, And I just watched Jaylen Clark. I wouldn't believe that he was a below 30% shooter from three in college. He just looked like a comfortable NBA shooter. And he never overcomplicated his role. He played with pace. He just made everything. I don't know how else to put it. He just made everything. And that is a really good upside driver for him, because if he is a consistently good shooter and he's maintaining this level of physicality and defense without fouling, again, that's an NBA player who signs 3 to 4 contracts in his career and is playing on playoff teams his whole life. And getting that in the 50s in the 2023 NBA draft, like,
Tim
that is
Connolly.
awesome.
Yeah, I mean, Tim Connolly took advantage of his stock falling, because there was a point in time where he was like a super late first round guy, he was for sure gonna be an early second round pick before he, I believe it was Achilles he tore before March Madness, or was it during? I can't remember. I think it was before. But like that's the dude who won the Naismith Defensive Player of the Year at UCLA. Like, that usually players like that just don't fall to the 50s. Obviously, that's because of the Achilles thing, but like Tim Connolly does it once again. I mean, if he just like contends to make all defensive teams throughout his career and hits open threes, like he's gonna make like $200 million.
Yeah.
Like, with where money's going, like he's gonna be something like that.
Yeah, if he was on the Lakers, man, he would sign a max, honestly. But yeah, no, that's a good point. And Tim Connolly, he has a history of taking advantage of falling stock. He's just really good at it. Like, I could go back to as far as the 2018 NBA draft and Michael Porter Jr. He was a potential number 1 pick, hurt his back early in the season, lands him at 14. And we can argue about Michael Porter Jr.'s contract, his health, but we can all say he exceeded the expectation of a number 14 pick. And Jaylen Clark is doing the same thing. Late second round pick. If you do a 2023 NBA redraft, in my opinion, he's almost certainly a first round pick the way he played this year with opportunity. And I want to ask you before we transition to the next, group of players, rate your confidence on 1 to 10 that all 3 players can contribute into the rotation next year.
Probably like 7.
7?
Yeah, it's like all 3 of them combined. I think all individually I feel good about it, but combined, my biggest issue is probably the Rob Dillingham side of things because of the Mike Conley factor. I personally don't think Mike Conley should be rotationally playing next year ahead of Rob Dillingham, and especially not in the starting lineup. I just don't think he has it anymore. I mean, 30% from the field in the postseason this year, it was brutal. And with another off season too, like it's hard for me to see Mike Conley being a contributor anymore for a really high level basketball team, as much as I love the dude. But it's probably that. And then if you do bring back Nikhil, like it does make it harder for Clark to play. It really depends on what we do this offseason. Like your last episode was biggest offseason in Timberwolves history. Like that's super true. Like we could have all 3 of them playing rotationally next year, or it could just be like Shannon. I think Shannon is pretty locked in at this point because I think he can play the most positions on the court with his size. Like he can potentially even play the 4 in some lineups if you have Gobert out there, and then maybe like Jaden. But Rob Dillingham, you can't really do that at all. So it just makes, playing time harder.
If Rob Dillingham isn't playing next year significantly, considering the point guard need, I think we need to have the sirens, like red light, red flag, sirens, everything. If Rob Dillingham isn't playing next year and he's on the roster, that is massively concerning, because Minnesota, among, I would say, the top teams in the Western Conference right now, pretty easily has the worst point guard situation. And Rob Dillingham, you trade a swap and a first-round pick for him. You want him to be the solution for that. So if he's not the solution, year 2, like that's concerning. And I think he's going to have, like what Chris Finch said at the end of the season, he's got a very big opportunity in front of him. So Rob Dillingham, I like to hope and I like to believe that he's going to get that opportunity to elevate next year. Maybe he's not the starter. Maybe he is. That would be great if he proves to be a starter. But he just needs to be in the rotation, at least as a staple, because we've seen at the end of this season and just by watching the finals how important having good ball handlers is. And Rob Dillingham, theoretically, is the most creative ball handler on the roster. So if we see this need and he's not playing, that's concerning for me. So let's hope he plays.
Would you send Rob Dillingham to Summer League this year?
Yes, 100%. 100%. I mean, most rookies, unless you're a top tier rookie with the modern NBA landscape,
I guess Brandon Miller played Summer League, but that was more of his choice.
and he was a
Just a
rookie of the
recent
year
example.
finalist. I mean, Jabari Smith had a down rookie year, and he played in Summer
Yeah,
League.
he was the third overall pick.
I mean, most of the time, you could tell me if I'm wrong, if you aren't like a top 5 rookie, you play 2 years of Summer League. And
Yeah.
he didn't get a lot of reps last year. I think just watching him late in the season, he probably needs those reps to build confidence. And yeah,
Jaden McDaniels.
Jaden McDaniels.
I think that was a really good experience for Jaden, like showing that he could lead a team and like was the guy. I think that was going into year 3 for him also.
Year 2.
So
I don't think he was doing it year 3. I think it was year 2 with Jaylen
might have
Clark.
been. But like I think that was pretty big for Jaden, like to show that he can be the guy, and it just showed all of his on-ball potential with that team. I think he was averaging maybe around 20. I can't remember exactly, but I remember that being a fun Wolves Summer League year.
I think they made the finals that year. No, did they? They had a great record.
I think they went undefeated, but they didn't make the point differential to make the finals or something, which sucked.
Oh,
Like
that's right.
why can't they just expand the playoffs more? I guess they don't want them to play a ton of games, but man, we did really good. I wanted a chance at it.
Yeah, they're good. I was like, did they make Naz Reid led the Timberwolves to the Summer League finals, I believe, his rookie year.
Yep.
And then yeah, Jaden led them to being pretty much undefeated. Yeah, Rob Dillingham, no brainer, he needs to play. I would even be cool with Terrence Shannon playing. Like seriously,
Dude,
I'd be
he's
cool
gonna
with it.
murder them. He's gonna kill those dudes.
You know what, man? This is Hall of Fame mode fandom, bro. We'll take any championship we can get.
I think guaranteed chip if Shannon's going.
I would hang the banner right now. If they win the title in Vegas this summer, we need a banner at Target Center, bro. Like
he's averaging 30 in 20 minutes. Like it's not gonna be fair.
Yeah, I'm down for it. I don't know if Terrence Shannon would play, but I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it.
I think he averaged like 35 in the G League this year, something stupid.
I mean, darn, like his last few games of the conference finals, he was averaging 34 per 36.
Yeah.
So I think he would do pretty well. Let's transition to the next group of players. This feels like a very consensus ranking thus far, and I have a feeling this is going to continue.
Yeah.
So I don't even know why I'm saying it like we each have our own independent ranking, because clearly we're not special with our opinions right now. But all right, you want to tell me pick 4?
Yeah, we've entered a group of more long shot bets. I think like I got Leonard Miller 4 here. Like there's got to be something that we're missing because like I can't remember a single time where he's been given a chance on the court in an NBA game in real minutes. I don't know why. The dude dominates the G League every single time he plays. The skill set's there. He did well in Summer League. Like there has to be something that, we're not seeing is the reason why he's not playing. I mean, obviously he has to deal with the stacked front court year in and year out, whether it's Cat and Gobert with Nas or Gobert, Randall, Nas. Like it's harder to get minutes with that. But like I see the skill set there. Maybe it's the defense that just isn't there, but the offense looks pretty sweet as like a point forward at like 6'11", Like I was hoping like ideally with the chance of likely not being able to keep Gobert, Randall, and Reed going into next season, maybe this is where we bring them back. But like I feel like the hope was, Leonard Miller could be the bench big at this point, but he hasn't been given a chance once. So I'm losing hope in the sense that he's going to have a really high role in this team because I was super high on him pre-draft. I think he was my number 10 prospect that year. And like he continues to dominate the G League, just haven't seen it on an NBA court at all.
My friend, you weren't the only one super high in Leonard Miller, and I promise, because I know my track record on X would support this, but I promise you guys, I had him 7th on my board before the Timberwolves drafted him. I had him 7th on my board in 2023, and I remember watching him in high school, and I thought he was so far away, and watching how much he grew in the G League, and that's that unique size, the versatility, the pacing, the motor on the glass. It was like, is this Lamar Odom with Jared Vanderbilt just mixed in one player? And I was so excited about that. So when he fell to 33, which was shocking to me, I was thrilled. And like you mentioned, he's been dominant in the G League. He had a really good first summer league. He, even in moments when he gets to play, like he can score on an NBA court. And even in I know it's All-Star weekend, but he was the best player on that All-Star weekend game.
He was.
On that G League team. And Reed Shepherd, the 3rd overall pick, was on that team. And I think just reading between the lines, it feels like some players, Finch is a very, very precise coach on what he wants the non-stars to do to contribute to winning basketball. He wants you to scale down, right? It feels like Miller's had issues scaling down to what this team needs for him to play, like not being a primary creator, being somebody who's more of that connector, that young, versatile defender. We've seen the defensive struggles already, and it feels like the combination of not fully scaling down his game and being a high-level defender at the 4/5, which this team needs because defense is still the team's identity. That feels like why he hasn't been given the chances a Josh Minott has.
Yeah, I mean, we've even seen it with Josh Minott, who we're going to talk about soon. Like, the dude had one missed defensive rotation in one of the games he played and was subbed out 10 seconds in. Like, if you're a young guy, and I think Rob Dillingham's an exception here because he was drafted to do different things at a really high, value with that 8th overall pick. We invested into that. But, like, I mean, Rob Dillingham competes, by the way, like super hard on the defensive
he plays hard.
He sucks. Like, he competes, which is awesome, which was a little different than compared to what he did at Kentucky. But if you don't like compete at a super high level on defense or you miss rotations at that age, you're not playing in a Chris Finch rotation. Like, I respect that a lot with Finch, in some sense that he does that. But like, that's just what it is. I'm sure that's part of the reason why Leonard Miller, just doesn't touch the court as much.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And like I said, Finch likes this. I think if you're a young player on this team, you want to scale down. You have to scale down, simplify your game. You need to be good on defense. And you look at Leonard Miller's physical profile. He's long, he's agile, he's got good feet. He should be a good defender. He's got a really good feel for the glass as a rebounder. I think he's got a lot of talent, a lot of potential, and this summer is going to be a huge offseason for him because even if Minnesota takes a big at 17, Miller should have a wide open opportunity to earn that backup big man opportunity, assuming he's on the team next year, because that's going to be something we're going to talk about. We need to find more young players who eventually can replace Rudy Gobert or just, give him rest when he needs to get rest as he approaches, I think his age 33 season now. So yeah, it's going to be a huge offseason for Leonard Miller. He still is a uniquely gifted player. And I think if he figures out the defense on this team, he could be really good because he is a highly talented, highly unique offensive player. And if channeled well, I still think there's a world, dude, where he's like a legitimate NBA starter. He's got talent like that. So we just need him in a Minnesota context to really, figure out how to fit this team, especially on the defensive end. And let's move on to the last two names because I think there's only 6 in our categories, right? Number 5, Zach. Let's see if we continue this same ranking.
Yeah, it's Josh Minott. He was the first young guy to get rotation minutes this year, I believe, out of like everyone. And like he showed flashes. I think he definitely took a little bit of a leap this year with just the shooting. I think there was more confidence in the shot. The catch and shoot shot making was better. Um, the thing with him is like he's super athletic and can be a defensive playmaker sometimes, but overall, the impact on that end is not where it really needs to be because he's not somebody that can really play with the ball in his hands in offense, and he's not a great shooter still. Um, I see the upside to be like a transition athlete. And like the idea for Minot to work is he really just needs to be an impact defender. And he just doesn't consistently bring that at this point. Like he has the tools to do it. He has the size, the athleticism, but I just think the overall IQ on that end, the court mapping, the just, you know, not as consistent playmaking on that end as it should be. It's probably why he's just not on the court as much. I was happy to see the jump that he made this year, though. I think we saw progress. That's not always something we see. So, you know, going into this year with him, like hopefully if he can take in our leap, I don't know what the plane like the you know the path is to playing time, but it would be super valuable if he can be a guy that, you know, can come in 40 games a year and play rotationally and show a leap again in a sense, because then you can extend him off that on a minimum contract for a few years. That'd just be a valuable, like it'd be valuable to have a young guy that can play 10th man rotation minutes, you know, half the games of the year on a minimum deal. Like that's valuable to have. But I just don't know if he can do that still.
Is Josh Minott a free agent? I believe he is. No, is he not a free
I
agent?
think I think we have him picked up for his fourth
For
year of the rookie deal.
one last year. You're right. One last year.
So
Free agent
we
2020.
technically could extend him this summer, but that's not going to happen. We just don't have enough answers yet, especially with the roster. Like, we don't even really know if we need Minot to a high extent going forward.
Mhm.
So we'll see. He's on a contract year coming up. He's got a lot to work for this offseason.
Yeah, and I'm not necessarily an aficionado on the CBA yet. I have, are you smarter than the fifth grader understanding on it? But it feels like Minot could be a player who could be one of those like, oh, we need to throw somebody in to make player matches work, or we need to free a little space to get this player in. Minot feels like the most movable young player we've mentioned. And my problem with Minot has always been he hasn't had an identity as a player. And Miller's had a similar problem, but I think especially for Minot, it feels like watching him, you see this tall, rangy kid who's highly athletic, good in transition, but I don't know what he does. Like, we know Dillingham's a playmaker. We know Terrence Shannon is a transition energy scorer. We know Jaylen Clark is a 3-and-D player. We know what Miller could be. I don't know what Minot is, and that's my problem. I think he wants to be a bigger part of the offense than he ever will be, and he lacks focus on the defensive end. And when you're a player with his physical profile, with what Minnesota needs him to be, you can't not have an identity as a player. And I think that's why he lost his opportunity. He had a great preseason, and I think Finch and the coaching staff understood how important this year was for him. So getting him out on the court was important early in the season, and that's why he probably got the first shot. But he struggled offensively, defensively, especially defensively. And I think the fact that he's never fully figured it out on defense, that's why he's gone from a potential part of this future to somebody who is definitely a question going forward.
Yeah, like he can't not be a good defender. I mean, he has to be really good at that end.
We talked about it with Miller and even Dillingham. If Josh Minott isn't a defender, like he has no chance in this rotation.
Yeah, I mean, like the thing with Miller is why I think like the defense isn't as big of a thing is because Miller just has so many more like offensive skills and traits
Yeah.
that I can see him getting on NBA court because of. And like the bar to like how good of a backup, defensive big defender you have to be to play isn't super high compared to like some other positions. So like Miller can be a NBA player for a lot of teams if he's a really good offensive player but subpar defense. Like
He averages 15 on the Wizards.
yeah, like but Minott just can't really do that like positionally.
Absolutely. And I want to move on to the last name. I'm just going to say our ranking because we
I
literally
guess
have the same ranking. You want to finish it off, Zach?
yeah, Jesse Edwards. I would assume he's probably kept on a two-way this year. I don't really know if he can ever be more than a two-way guy. I mean, another guy you just haven't seen, but you know, I mean, just to look at the G League stats this year in 18 games, 11 points, 61% from the field, 8.5 rebounds, over 2 blocks. I guess he's like kind of like a Gobert, like a mini Gobert,
That's
but
the
doesn't
idea.
do anything like close to the same level, I guess. I don't know. I mean, he's maybe a good fifth big to have, I guess.
I'll say this, and I think Minnesota seems to reflect this philosophy. I love players with long arms and who are really tall. If you have a lot of those guys, you're probably good. So, like you said, I think that's probably his value right now. Like he was a pretty solid rim protector when I saw him in summer league. There's some questions about the hands, some of the movement stuff, but yeah, I would say it just. I'm not going to pretend that I've been up at 3 a.m. cranking in Jesse Edwards tape. I I'll be very curious to see if he plays on the summer league team again because I want to learn
He
more
should.
about him.
He
I want
should.
to learn. Yeah, you should. I want to learn more about him. But yeah, he was undrafted in 2024. So this is his first year. It'll be very interesting to see if Minnesota brings him back on a two-way and just, how much he can develop physically, athletically, and just if he's just a guy who's big and long and just is a really good rim protector, he'll find his way on NBA rosters because anybody who can protect a spot where all 5 of basketball players on the other team are trying to get to, you're going to have value. So it'll be very interesting to see how he develops. And I want to transition to the next part of the show. We are going to talk about the 2025 NBA draft a little bit. This episode will be kind of the introduction for that for this show. And then I'll talk about it next week as well with hopefully another guest. But the 2025 NBA draft, Zach, you've become quite an NBA draft mind. And you do a lot of good stuff. I've followed your stuff. It's really good. You have scouting reports on T-Wolves Country. You got it all going for you. You write stuff online. I just want to hear what's your mindset toward the 2025 NBA draft for Minnesota?
Yeah, so we got, some nice picks, 17 and 31. That's cool. If like we just did the whole prospect ranking, the 6 guys, I would say, the top 3 are for sure guys we want to try to get in the rotation next year. So I guess my mindset with now getting 2 more draft picks is, can you really take on 2 more rookies on guaranteed contracts at this point? If I'm Minnesota, I'm probably trying to consolidate those and move up and find a guy that I really like around like the 13, 14, 15 spot and maybe guarantee to get that guy. But I could see some value in like the thing with this year's draft. When we look back on the NIL era in college basketball and we were like, okay, it really started to affect the NBA draft, like that, it was this year for sure.
For
Like
sure.
there was probably 10 plus guys in the late first round to early second round that, I mean, 10 guys that were going to get guaranteed NBA contracts probably that went back to college basketball to make $2+ million. You're talking like the Tahad Pettivers, the Boogie Flans, the Baron Philons, Alex Condon, like all those type of guys went back to college basketball. All potential first round picks went back to college basketball. And when I made my big board, like when you get into the 40s in this year's draft class, we're talking all two-way guys from there. I think there's maybe 39 guys this year in this year's draft that I would give guaranteed deals to. So Minnesota getting the 31st pick is really clutch. Thank you, Utah Jazz, for being horrible. Because there's pretty good value if you do stay at 31. I really do like some of the guys there still. I think that's a normal high second round draft pick. It would have been better if those guys would have stayed. but there's certainly value there. But if I'm Minnesota, I'm looking at trade up options for sure.
I remember Tim Connolly talking about the draft at the end of the season, and one of his takeaways was we have a lot of guys chomping at the bit right now to play, a lot of young players we like. I'm not sure whoever we draft, 17 or 31, is going to play right away. That's basically what he said. So if there's a guy who you really love who's at like 13 or something and you want to trade up, I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it. So I think you made a lot of good points about this draft. It's one of those, once you make a transition like this and you move things back, it's going to take a couple of years to reset. And a couple of years from now, we're going to have the depth just kind of reset where the talent will eventually balance out. But I think it's going to be more NBA ready talent because that type of transition, when players are staying a year or two longer than usual, there's going to be that 1 year where things are a little bit down and then it'll catch up. So that's going to be the interesting thing. It's kind of the opposite of, there was that rumor that high school basketball was going to, you'd be draft eligible out of high school. That was a rumor for a while. And if that happened, there was going to be like a super NBA draft where potentially 2 drafts come together, right? But this is the opposite in that case. And that's going to be interesting because in a couple years from now, we'll be talking about later draft picks like, hey, man, he's 23. He should play right away. And it's pretty fun when it isn't like a farmhouse system in baseball. And you're just, I might draft a guy and I'm not seeing him till I turn 30.
Yeah.
And that's not always the most fun. So, I'm interested. I'm interested in this 2025 NBA draft for Minnesota. And so I want to just to make sure we're all on the same page for how this War Room NBA mock draft is going to work. So I'm going to simulate draft picks on Fanspo, and we're going to watch how the board falls. And the moment we get to Minnesota's picks, you're going to see who's available, and you're going to pretend you're like an NBA scout for the Timberwolves and just give who would your best options be. And then we'll make a pick. We'll do that for 17 and 31. And if there's an option to get to 13, we will. So that is how we are going to do this 2025 NBA mock draft. All right, let's get this loaded. So here is the 2025 NBA mock draft simulator for Fanspo. So we'll be drafting for the Minnesota Timberwolves, full draft, out of pick behavior. It was asking for standard team need. I'm just going chaos, man. I'm just going chaos. Make this even more unpredictable. And plus, think that's kind of what the NBA draft is, right? It's always chaos.
Yeah.
So, okay. And also, I'm a big No Ceilings fan, so shout out to No Ceilings. So we'll use your draft board. Let's get this draft started. Ready, Zach?
I'm ready.
Just Cooper Flago's 1.
I wanted him.
Nick Clifford.
Oh.
Oh, that makes no sense.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Okay,
That's
this is terrible. Okay.
Maybe 2 chaos.
I was saying chaos. I wasn't saying like your brain is drugged. Wait, I'm going to undo previous picks. Ready? Let's just draft Dylan Harper. Okay.
Nick Clifford goes 3 now.
Auto pick. No,
Yep.
Why do you like you like Nick Clifford so much?
What they have like Nick Clifford as like their 5th prospect in No Ceilings or what?
No, they didn't. This is crazy. So Dylan Harper 2. Should we just say VJ Edgecombe 3?
Mm-hmm. It's gonna take Clifford 4.
Where do they? They don't have him that high. This is awful. Restart draft. Okay, we're just restarting draft. All right. I still want chaos, but when I was saying chaos, I wasn't thinking Nick Clifford at 2. Okay. Okay, this is awful. All right, we're actually Fanspo's great. We're just going to go standard, okay? I'm sorry. When I was thinking chaos, I was thinking like Rasheer Fleming 7 or something.
Yeah. Or maybe like Noah Essengay to the Blazers.
Yeah, he should go top 8. Okay. No, this isn't standard either. This is
What is going on?
crazy. Cancel auto pick. Well, so I'm going to kind of regulate it. So like Cooper Flag is still going. Okay. All right. How do I undo pick again?
It's on the Mavs pick right now.
We're doing this. This is a disaster. Okay. I promise we'll get to the Timberwolves pick. There you go. Now things are normal. Okay. This makes sense. Okay. Ace Bailey 4. Tell me if you want to trade up. Okay. Trey Johnson, Concanoople.
Once we get to the spot, I'm looking for one name right now mainly.
Okay. Yegor Demon 11. Derek Queen.
Pause on the Spurs. Pause here.
Oh, they already made a pick.
That's fine.
Right. Okay, the Spurs.
This would be perfect trade up range. So it would probably take a little bit to explain, but San Antonio is a team that its value is probably more what they're looking for is like around pick 17 compared to here.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this would be a great spot to just package 17-31. And then, I mean, I don't think you need to do more, but if you really want to throw a future second in there too, I don't care. But this is perfect where we're at. There's
So
like,
wait. Sorry, I was literally just yelling at my dog to stop snooping. What'd you say in the last part of it?
so I think you could definitely deal 17-31 and a trade up here if you would need to do a future second also. I'll go for it. Just to guarantee you get a guy that you like here.
Okay. So you tell me this. Do you want to trade up to 14 or should we stick at 17 and then get spicy with 17 and see who are other options at 31? Your call.
If I'm them, I'm trying to get to 14 here to guarantee the guy. But
so
I think there's definitely enough guys on the board to where somebody's falling to 17 that I like.
Okay. So you want to trade up?
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's try to see if they do it. Okay. How do I do this site?
It's the trade pick button.
Oh, I'm missing the red button. Whoops. Minnesota Timberwolves. See if they do this. See if they will do this. Maybe we can. Because I still kind of would like 2 picks in this draft. I don't know about you. What do you think about?
Yeah, I mean, 38, you can get a guy there still. I don't think it falls off at that point.
Just trade picks, see what it does.
Yep.
Oh, it worked.
So you want me to pitch you some guys here?
Sure. I don't know. I'm not even sure if this is like agreed or if I just overrided it. But either way, we're at 17. We're at 14 and 38 now.
So yeah, this is definitely the range that I would like to trade up to. There's like 5 or 6 dudes that I would love here. I mean, we can just start at the top with Neat Clifford. Clifford, the idea with him is he's an older guy that's going to be ready to play day one. He's just a pure scorer and shot creator, can score on all 3 levels. He's probably going to be an okay defender in the NBA. I think he's really good with like screen navigation, but the issues with Clifford is maybe like just attacking closeouts because he doesn't have like great hips. Like the hip flexibility isn't awesome there. But with him, like he could be a legit shot creator and just high level scorer in the NBA. And the Timberwolves could really use that. And he's a good size player. Colin Murray Boyles here is pretty interesting. I think he would, on most people's board, be the highest player remaining. Defensive playmaker. He's really like small for a big. He's 6'7", but he can guard centers at a pretty high level, in my opinion. I'm more confident that he can guard a big body center than just being like a switchable guy because he's, a little slower feet, but he can be a legit offensive hub, a passer, a scorer in the post. I just don't love like the athleticism with him and some parts of like just the switching defense. Cedric Coward was the biggest combine riser. He went from, the progression with Coward's crazy. He went from a D3 player to D1 to going to Duke, and now he's going to be a potential lottery pick. Really went crazy with his measurement. I think he had like a plus like 10 wingspan or something ridiculous.
Wow.
Beautiful shot. Like he's going to shoot in the NBA. He's going to be a really high level off ball player, most likely, but it's like the frame and the size that is pretty crazy with him. Noah Shange, I think that's how you say his name. He's got some pretty crazy tools for his age. He's one of the youngest players in the class. I think he's like a week older than Cooper Flagg, and he's legitimately contributing to a pro level team that's in the playoffs. He just draws fouls at a super high level. He's super big as well. I think he was like 6'11" without shoes or something, 6'10" maybe. Like some people are saying, though, he might be a center, which is kind of crazy with some of the skill set he has.
Wow.
And then we scroll down a little bit.
Let's
I was
scrolling.
glitching a little bit. Because then we have Rasheer Fleming. I know you like him a lot. The thing with him is he's just a monster. I think
He's got long arms. Long arms.
I mean, he's 6'9", but he had the fourth biggest wingspan at the combine at like 7'6" or something ridiculous. But I know it was like the fourth biggest. Like the idea with him is he's like just this monster, like size wise, and he's a good athlete, and he's going to be a good transition player, and he's a good off ball player. The swing skill of him is the shooting. The optimism for the shot is since high school, year by year, that there's been progression with it getting better. The issue is this past year was on his only like real good year as a shooter, and the form is a bit funky. So we'll see if it translates, but at worst, he's going to be probably a good NBA defender with just crazy length at the power forward spot. And then the legit, like he can be a legit 3-and-D guy. Like he could be one of the more high level 3-and-D guys in the league. Honestly, I don't really see any star upside here because he just has zero shot creation or playmaking right now. And just the handle's really bad, but real 3-and-D stuff there.
What's your take on who Minnesota should take?
I would take Sorber.
He's okay. Give me an explanation on him. I want to hear about him.
Yeah, so Sorber is the guy I'm the highest on here. I'm like unnaturally high on him. I think he's the best big in the draft. He's a little bit smaller for a big. He's 6'10" in shoes, but he was like 6'9.5" or whatever without them. That doesn't really worry me because he's freakishly long. He's got like a 7'6" wingspan, and he was the heaviest player at the combine, which was like 267 pounds. I think he's probably have to come down to like 255. I think he's a little bit heavier now because of the foot injury, so he probably put on just a little bit of weight from that because he had a season-ending foot injury in February that limited his season and probably hurt his stock a little bit. But he's just a dog, and I think he's the most projectable big in the class when it comes to playoff basketball because I don't have questions about what position he's going to play. I think he's going to be a good NBA defender. He's excels in drop coverage. That's where he's best at. And I think he's a lot better foot speed wise than people give him credit for. He's just so strong. You can't back him down in the post. He blocked over 2 shots per game this year. He's an absolute freak. And the crazy thing about him is usually with these young defenders, they foul a lot. He does not foul really, and he blocks shots with both hands at a high level. And then the other thing about him is I'm more intrigued with the offensive side than defensive side. I think he'll be a good defender, but I like the offense more. Like it's like 2.5 assists per game. He was like legitimately an offensive hub for Georgetown this year. Like he would constantly get the ball at the top of the key, like off of DHOs and just survey the defense and make passing reads and stuff like that. And then he's a legit post scorer. Like some of the concerns with him are some of the foot speed stuff questions. I'm not as worried about as some people, but the bigger one's just the athleticism. He's not really above the rim finisher, not a super high level athlete. Like he's not like on the Janai Broom, like Derek Queen level of low athlete, but he's not going to be a good athlete in the NBA. But I think you just see a dude that is going to be a potential offensive hub in the NBA, like a high-level passer at the big man spot, legit footwork and post skill ability, Not a shooter yet. I think the shot, like people talk about Mall Watch as a shooter long term, like get the free throw and stuff like that. Like purely from the 3-point line, I like Sorber more in that aspect right now, projectably.
Gotcha.
But yeah, not somebody you're going to build your defense around, but going to be a good defender, I think, in the league too. So I just see like playoff dude here.
Perfect. I like him a lot too. He has he kind of reminds me of a 2000s big, just in terms of the way he plays offensively, the high post playmaking. He's got a little midi, he's got a good feel, good hands, and I wish he was a little more agile than he is because I think he's 263 right now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And I feel like for his archetype, I know he's got crazy long arms, 7'6" wingspan. I wish he had a little more quickness, which might come with, cutting 10, 15 pounds in the NBA. But I do like him a lot. And the foot injury, from what I've heard, not a huge concern. Let's draft him.
For people
Okay.
that like I'm not a huge like NBA comparison guy, but I really do like Isaiah Hartenstein comparison with him here, especially if he probably loses like 10 pounds maybe just to like show the athleticism a little bit more. But Hardenstein's pretty similar in the sense that just a high level defender that maybe, could be better foot speed wise, but can be an offensive hub in points, can score in the post. Obviously has that crazy push shot. Sorber doesn't really have that as much, but I think Sorber is just more talented when it comes to his post skill.
Yeah,
But I like that comp a lot.
I love it. I could see that. I think that's a really good comp. Perfect. Let's continue this mock draft. It feels like if we just stuck at 17, man, there's so many good options available. Like we would have been cool at 17, I think.
Yeah,
Let's
we would have been for sure with how this fell.
Yeah, for sure. Let's auto pick everything.
I just like if Minnesota loves a guy and that guy's available at 14 and you can get up to get him.
Yeah, for sure. But also like if there's four guys you really like,
Yeah.
there's no need to. Because I
It
feel
just
like the
it
trade
just
that we did.
depends. It just depends if they have a guy in a different tier or not.
No, for sure.
We don't know how their board looks. I mean, if they have four dudes in the same tier at 17 and they're all on the board at 14, don't trade up.
No, exactly. We don't know how their board looks. Another guy I was thinking about who I think is a dark horse to go really high is Joan Beringer. Is that how you say his name? He's
Baron J,
the
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he's the European big, just like a super talented rim protector and super athletic and young. Has only played basketball a couple years.
Yep.
Interesting guy. Okay, 38. Ooh, we got
Saw
baby
the name right
Jokic.
away at the top.
Give me two or three guys and let me know which one you'd prefer. So here's how the board looks right now.
All right, I got him.
Okay.
Yeah, so Noah Penda right away at the top. I think he's a first rounder. I think the idea with him is just like this point forward that is a defensive positive as well. Plays pro basketball in France. I just think he's going to be a potential high level playmaker at a big position. I like Tyrese Proctor a lot. It would be kind of harder to get him in, I guess, with just how much depth we have there. But this dude just is a phenomenal jump shot maker, like super efficient off of dribble jumpers, and he can be a positive on the defensive end. That's what he was for Duke this year. He's really switchable, just the strength with him and doesn't really pressure the rim at this point, but he can be a legit shot creator. And then another guy I like from Duke is Sion James. I have him higher than here. I would potentially pick him at 31 if we kept that pick.
Okay.
Like, I just see that dude being a potential 10-year dude in the NBA. Like, his role at Duke this year is exactly what he's going to do in the NBA. Primary point of attack defender, just a monster strength wise. And he was legitimately one of the best catch and shoot shot makers in college basketball last year, 95th percentile
Well,
on catch and shoot shot making stuff. And he even had some secondary ball handler reps. He can finish at the basket. Like, that's a dude where if he for some reason went like late first round, it's going to shock people, but I wouldn't hate it.
what do you think of Hanson Yang?
Not the biggest fan. Like, my thing with him is like he won the defensive player of the year in the league he played in, and I
Yeah,
don't think he's gonna be a good NBA defender.
because he
Like
doesn't have like crazy foot speed, right?
he's just got like stones in his leg,
Mm.
like some of the worst hip flexibility you'll see. But he's got like real like post touch and some passing. Like we saw one really sick pass to the combine, and people are calling him Jokic. I don't see that. Um, but yeah, I mean, he's a second round swing big for sure. Like if Minnesota took him at 31, wouldn't not understand it at all.
He's fun, man, and he'd sell a lot of tickets because of you know, like China. If you got an NBA player from China, they sell a lot of tickets out there. So
Yeah.
yeah, my friend, I will let you make the final offering on who you want to take.
Yeah, I'll go Noah Penda. I think that's a guy that should be going first round. I think that's a great pick there.
Awesome. Okay, so I don't think we care about the rest of the draft. So, okay, so in this mock draft, we took Thomas Sorber, number 14, and then we took Noah Penda, 38. We did a trade with the Spurs. I still haven't fully figured out whether that was a product of just the simulation doing whatever I said or the Spurs agreed to it. Not sure, but it makes a lot of sense for Minnesota to move up, get Thomas Sorber, and figure out such a scenario like that. So, all right, Zach, is there any other final draft takes that you want to get out there before we reach the final of the show?
I mean, the only thing that I think that Wolves fans should be considering entering the draft is there's not like a position that Minnesota needs to fill in the draft. The mindset should be you're taking the best player available unless the fit is really bad. Like, I like Jace Richardson a lot, but if he's available at 17, I'm probably not taking him because of the belief I have in Dillingham. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
really see a world where those two can coexist on a basketball court together.
Yeah.
So that's probably a scenario where best player available might not be taken. But, like we don't need to get a big at 17, despite this would be a good opportunity to do that. And we probably could use a backup big time next year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if there's just a much better wing on the board, you're taking that guy. Like, that's how you contend for titles for years to come. You take the best player available, you win through the draft, like we could absolutely hit on a guy like a wing that becomes a really good basketball player and at this range in the draft. So, that's the mindset I would have going into it. We don't need to get a big this draft. I think the guy that I want the most is a big, coincidentally, but that shouldn't be the mindset, is my thing.
I love that point because, like you said, Minnesota is a contender now. And if you're drafting for fit, you're drafting for somebody to play right away. And you don't necessarily need that. And I agree with your point. Unless you're really out on Rob Dillingham, you don't need to take Jace Richardson. And I like Jace Richardson, but it's really hard to have two 6 foot guards who are young on your team because they don't have the same just versatility on what position you can play them. You could draft like a Jaeger Demon who's 6'9" as a point guard, but you could play him theoretically from the 1 to the maybe 3, or a big. And we need a big. You can maybe put him in the front court if he has enough versatility. A wing, of course, is like the modern NBA Swiss Army knife. So I love that point that Minnesota should go for talent available because we likely don't need whoever they take to play right away if this person isn't ready. So I think that's a great take. So for everybody, for the future of the show, so next week we will definitely have more NBA draft related stuff going into next week. I'll try to get another really good NBA draft guest for that. And next week's a big week as well. Not only that, but the ownership approval should happen next week. And we never know when a Kevin Durant move is happening. I personally, for right now, don't plan on having an episode up this weekend. But if something crazy happened and we need a reaction episode right away, we're going to get a reaction episode up. So not fully ruling out having something up this weekend, but we will plan to have something on next week. Zach, my friend, the NBA draft aficionado, Mr. T-Wolves Country on Instagram. Over 17,000 followers on Instagram. My friend, thank you so much for hopping on.
Yeah, thanks, man. It was a fun show.
Fun show. Felt like the good old days with Windshield Hoops. Thank you all so much. This is Wilder Wolves Hall of Fame Mode Fandom.